Good morning, DFI 2 students. Boy, I didn't think I'd say this, but I really miss going to class. It's kind of hard not seeing the students face to face periodically and to hear how you're doing and just get life back to normal. But I hope you're doing okay and staying safe, and my prayers are with you and your families. I wanted to just welcome you back through a video in the sense of let's go over a little bit of the content together regarding the main body of this website. I'm just about to wrap up giving you evaluations on your intros and outros, so you'll be receiving those shortly. And so redress those intros and outros as necessary. And then remember, this video is not meant to be less than 5 minutes, but not meant to be much more than, say, 7 minutes tops. It doesn't really need to be long. If it has to be long and it's interesting and fluid throughout, then there's nothing wrong with a longer video in this instance, especially for an instructional video. But I just don't want it to be something redundant and slow. So let's get on with it. Students, let's start by looking at the assignment itself. I know you've reviewed this. We might have even done this briefly when I first mentioned the instructional video assignment in class, but just to be safe, let's go over this again. And like always, it's a video, so you can peruse as quickly and as slowly as you want to. I do want you to watch this resourceful link that I posted on the video, and for a couple reasons. It's full of wonderful knowledge that would help you regarding SEO, search engine optimization, using a YouTube video. But what I like about it, it gives you a little bit of all the tips and the elements necessary for a video that keeps you engaged. This particular author or instructor has a good way of having pattern interruptions very quickly. They can be humorous, they can be just graphical, but like everything in graphic design, it really needs to be somewhat consistent. So I know that this particular web instructor, likes to use this kind of a lime guacamole green color, and it flashes through at breakpoints. So interject type, interject a color splash, a picture, some typography. Go ahead and record your video in its totality. Do it with really good quality audio. I'll have a link in here that will help you how you can enhance the audio if it's a little bit shallow and not quite as robust as you like. Basically what you do is you double the video channel. You just copy it and place it over the top of it, kind of like layering in Photoshop. So it makes it twice as loud. And of course, if you're using Premiere or some advanced videography tool, you can actually equalize it. So watch this link. Don't just glance at it. Watch at it and make notes about what makes it kind of energetic and interesting. And we're going to go over these tips together. I mentioned one of the recommendations in this video is to include a transcript. You can include, but your video is kind of long. It's 5 minutes at least, so that's a lot of verbiage to actually write out and put underneath your video in YouTube. By the way, since I mentioned YouTube, that was the requirement to use YouTube. If you're begging me or you're just trying to sneak it in and use Vimeo, I really don't care as long as these elements are still in place and I've got a link to it, okay? Because we can embed a Vimeo video just like a YouTube in your Squarespace site. So just a heads up, but don't use Vimeo or some other video resource as an exception why you couldn't do a particular part of the assignment, okay? But instead of a transcript, let there be at least a summary beneath your video. Don't forget this. Some students always forget this. They worry so much about the intro, outro, the video, and getting it solved, and they forgot to even add type or description or summary. And the summary should have keywords in it. So think about your website, think about your video. What would be relevant keywords to utilize inside of the video? Just don't say this is a video I did for DFI 2 course. No, explain the content in general about the video using keywords. Make your video at least 5 minutes in length. Use the right keywords. Check out this web page. It's got some excellent information regarding keywords and selections and how to use those. And this is important. Enable comments in your YouTube video setup, okay? Enable the comments so people can comment. This also helps drive up rankings. If you don't have a commenting, then it doesn't allow people to engage. Now, it's more important when we finally get this thing published for the public to see. All right, you're going to create a relevant. You guys know this. You should be familiar with some of these programs. If not, then I really don't know how you got into this course, because it's a prerequisite for you to have time-based media. If you transferred from somewhere else, it's not our fault. The presumption is that you understand how to make a video, and many of you have been making it since you were a child using iMovie or Movie Maker Pro if it's a PC, a Windows machine. But Premiere, iMovie, QuickTime, After Effects. After Effects would be awesome, especially for those pattern interruptions. Even Photoshop, if you've learned how to use the timeline and the video maker in Photoshop, or there may be others. You just have to export it as an MOV or an MP4 file. Eventually it's got to be an MP4. Okay, but that's your responsibility to figure that out. The criteria that I'm looking at, you're going to have a header intro that's got your intro and an outro, and you're going to have your logo identity matching your website. Remember this, let there be harmony between your website and this. If your primary colors in your website was bright red, then why wouldn't you use this in your video if this becomes part of your brand? So think about, you're trying to brand it all, trying to keep the typography similar, the logo, the color palette, the voicing perhaps even similar. So think about all those things as a good designer. You need to provide content that raises awareness of your brand, promotes your skills, and you get it. You need to have a quality audio. Practice this a time or two. Don't just do it one and done. Practice the audio, review it. If you need to get closer to your phone or your microphone if you're using one, whatever. But use whatever tools necessary to make it quality. My main quality is we don't just have a whole bunch of reverb and the volume level isn't so low and it's very clear. You may need to slow your speech down. You may need to be, I had some of my Chinese students ask if they could use subtitles. I'm fine with using subtitles, just do a good job at it, and I don't want you to use the Chinese language and then have subtitles. I mentioned that to a couple of students who asked. Nothing against Chinese language at all, but it's an American institution, an English-speaking institution, and the presumption is you pass TOEFL. This is an English degree you're seeking, so it's supposed to be an English format. 5-minute video at least. Make sure it's informational, helpful, relevant, understandable, most of all interesting. Some of you, to make the 5 minutes, if I was demonstrating how to make a piece of pottery, of course it takes more than 5 minutes. You can certainly do a rapid, fast speed, increase the speed, or time-lapse video. You can do whatever you need to do to make that happen. So main thing is get some really good quality video, then you can edit as necessary. Use interrupting patterns, and this goes a long way, and I really think that's about every 20 to 30 seconds something new needs to happen. I don't care if you're drawing a portrait and you're right there drawing the eye and you're about to move to the nose. Let a snippet of text pop up. Break away with a little suggestion, or maybe it's just a little screen overlay that has a description of the kind of tool that you're using. Just something. We're multitaskers. We can understand what you're saying as well as read something else at the same time. It says promote links to your site, your blog, your social media, or other. This is done in the video itself through any comments that you make. It can be through some text on the outro, the clip at the end, which some of you have already done, which is great. But also don't forget, underneath your video, there's a description and a summary. That's a great place to have an actual link to your LinkedIn or to your website. You want to do that to intersect all of your social media. I mentioned this before, stylize this to match the DNA of your site, background colors, typography, line height, graphics, etc. All the design elements are at your disposal to make this feel unified. Once you post this to YouTube, consider whether or not you want viewers to comment. Well, I've already said that I want you to, okay? And that's for our purposes. Later on, now we don't have to make this public in the sense maybe you just set the settings where it's only if I have the URL can I access it. That's one way to do it. And I can't remember what that's called, but it's kind of semi-private. But it's easy enough to make it public. Nobody's going to hurt you, or you're not going to hurt anybody by doing this. There's mention here about background music without permission. There's plenty of music that's available, but I would suggest that you look at copyright free, and I'll ask you about it. If I'm hearing in your intro and I'm hearing some kind of Talking Heads song or Katy Perry or whoever, I'm thinking, do you have permission to use that? And it's not good enough just to give credit, okay? I mean, that's better than nothing, but really there's plenty of dynamic or soothing soundtracks available that are royalty free. Sound energetic and dynamic, joyful. In other words, act like you really enjoy what it is you're introducing or teaching us about on this video. Okay? And for some of you that's easy. For some of you it's difficult. So just do the best you can. You may have to put, I've always been surprised that some people, I said, where did this come from? This person's got a great dynamic and exciting voice. Although most of the time in general conversation, maybe it's not that same way. But you can do what you need to do. Avoid that boring tone. Avoid lengthy gaps that are just kind of silent. Nothing really is happening. If you know that you're going to draw a line from point A to point B and you've done it 3 times already, there's no reason you have to show that over and over again. You could actually edit the video, make it a little bit shorter. People get it. It's like the cooking shows where they pop it in the oven and then time lapsed for 30 minutes, 20 minutes or whatever. Boom, instantly they pull out of another oven the finished product. Irrelevant content, I'll just let that sit where it may. If you waste time on some other things, then you might be boring the listener. Ineffective communication anyway, whether it's visual or audio. So how do you submit this? And just like you did with intros and outros, you're going to submit, you could either, I think instead of an MP4, you're going to submit to me your YouTube or your Vimeo URL. And make sure it's set to public or available to me somehow or another with a direct URL address. Okay? All right, look forward to seeing these. You'll be getting back your reviews for the intros, outros real soon. So when you sandwich your main video content between those two things, you should have a really, really good draft that we can go from there. All right. Bye-bye.